With today's video, I'm gonna finally talk about my overall experience using my S5iiX. Such a handful calling S5iiX. I'm just gonna call it the S5X, or just S5iiX, or really S5X or S5iiX. The funny thing about working on this video is that I realized that I did have a Lumix camera at one point in my life. I watched a lot of short films, indie films and whatnot, and a lot of like YouTube videos from like 5-6 years ago, and it really inspired me to really, take the risk and try doing my own thing, do my own like short film or photos and whatnot. I started doing my research on what's the best camera that would help me become one of the best short film makers at the time. And I was very, very green. I didn't know any better. I didn't know about proper exposures, the best lens, or the caveats of buying a cheap lens versus an expensive lens, or what the f-stop really means in terms of like how that affects your image, right? I was very green. I was one of those people that just thought if I throw money at it, I can produce great content or great film or great photos. You spend more time in that field, you start to realize that none of that really matters. All cameras are capable and are amazing. The GH5 is one of the cameras that are well beloved by indie filmmakers and other content creators at that time, because it was offering so much in terms of features at a price. I still kept tabs on Lumix new releases and firmware updates on like the cameras and lens. I've used the Fujifilm X-H2 for a lot of my wedding portrait photography and also all of my videos. Honestly, the X-H2 is a really great camera for everything. It's like jack of all trades for a specific price point, and that is the camera that I use to start out my YouTube with, and it's been an amazing journey with it. But I just wanted something a little more in terms of video capabilities. One day I saw the S5iiX on sale at a bargain price, and I couldn't refuse not to get it because it was about $400 to $500 cheaper than MSRP, and I had to like double check with like customer service, asking them if this is a used copy or is it like a display copy that they need to get rid of. But no, it was pretty much brand new. So I'm like, sure, I'll swipe my card, spend more money. Yeah, so I bought it. I also bought 3 prime native lens, which would be the 35, 50, and 85 1.8, and Sigma's new 24-70mm at 2.8 Mark II. I was super kitted out. I was ready to go. Off the bat, what I really like about Lumix native prime lens is that, namely the ones I mentioned earlier, the 35, 50, and 85, they all use the same filter thread, and which is super welcoming because I didn't have to buy multiple ND filters at different sizes, and same goes for my Pro Mist filters because they all use the same filter thread, so I could just use the same filters for all the lens, which is really great and like cost savings. So I put the S5iiX through the paces. I made it my main camera for all my wedding photography, and overall it's been a big success. I love vlog. I love Lumix color science. I have never ever felt so happy about the way that my photos and video look, because Lumix color science, specifically their vlog, is so flexible to work with. It's insane, and this is me coming from years experience of grading Fujifilm's F-log and dab a little bit in S-log and C-log. So I'm gonna name out the positives off the bat. The color science of Lumix RAW files and vlog are great, which I just praised like earlier in the video. I had no issues matching Lumix files with Fujifilm's RAW files for photos. In fact, it was so much easier to achieve a certain look on the Lumix files comparably to Fujifilm's files, mind-boggling to me because I've worked with Fujifilm's RAW files for the longest time. With my short experience using the Lumix RAW files for photos, I had easier achieving the look I want, which is great. And I think namely because the files are a lot more neutral than Fujifilm's files for sure. Because with Fujifilm's RAW files, they're a little more like magenta, yellow, reddish, while with the Lumix files, they're a lot more neutral, like maybe more towards like slightly more to the blues, from what I could see. But with that being said, though, it was super easy to match. Vlog is a gem, much easier for me to grade comparatively to F-Log. Now N-Log, which I own, the Nikon ZF and the Z8. Now autofocus is definitely a big step up. I have almost a 99.9% hit rate with the Lumix. The Lumix made my job a lot easier. With Lumix's new autofocus, it really shines through video. It's done such a good job with keeping my subject in focus, and I wish I kind of had like a monitor to show you guys what the focus is doing on Lumix, but take my word for it. In my experience, it's really good. Low light performance for the Lumix is great too, much better than the X-H2. Not because of the fact that it's full frame. With Vlog, it comes with dual native ISO. So the base ISO for the Vlog is 640, and for the second ISO would be, I think, 4000. So from 640 to 4000, that's a pretty big gap in terms of getting the cleanest image out of the Lumix sensor, which is great because if you shooting in semi-okay light indoors and you need that extra soft light, just crank up your ISO at 4000, your image will still look clean. It's super great. Very last thing, but it's very important for I think a lot of us, especially for people that are coming from Fujifilm or even Nikon that uses color profile, is that we can use our own LUTs in camera. That's mind-blowing because I don't think I know any other camera companies like Lumix that gives user the ability to use real-time LUTs in camera for their video or photo. What real-time LUTs is that you can create your own LUT on DaVinci Resolve or your Premiere Pro to get a certain look, and you can have multiple versions of that, and you can just upload that into your camera and apply it on your photo and video, which is Fujifilm's film simulation but on steroids. And it made my work flow so much easier in terms of my photos because I use that quite a bit. As I mentioned earlier, I had a much easier time matching Lumix RAW files, my Fujifilm files for a lot of my photo work, and specifically for my wedding photography. Again, it really caught me off guard how easy it was to edit those files. It's kind of crazy. Like maybe because I was so stuck in Fujifilm for so long that me trying something new automatically makes me think, oh, it's really good, it's amazing because it's different. But nah, because I tried using a Sony a7 IV for some of my creative sessions and weddings, and I just did not like Sony files. I don't know why, maybe because of the weird tinted green. I just don't like the way it looks. I don't know, like maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm a hipster. Maybe I wanted that film-like look from Fujifilm. I don't know. But with Lumix RAW files, I had such a joy editing those files, hands down. I think the one part that I really noticed with RAW files from Lumix is that the way that they handle highlights and shadows, it was a little easier to adjust the way that my mind thinks in terms of how highlights and whites and blacks and shadows work in a file. And with the Lumix files, it was easier to achieve that like less contrasty, vibrant look that you usually see on like certain film stock. And that's the same thing I always strive for in terms of my photos, because I want them to be true to life, while with a hint of like history behind it. And I'm also a huge fan about not over editing my photos to the point where it doesn't look natural. My overall experience using video with the S5iiX, if I had to put a number on it, it'll be a 5 out of 5. I'm not a gimbal guy. I hate gimbals. I hate using gimbals. I hate having to balance the gimbal at the get-go. And if I want to change the lens or add stuff to it, like a filter or whatever, I have to recalibrate the gimbal to counteract like the new weird added weight to the camera. I'm not fond of that because like I could easily waste like 20 minutes overall in total if I kept changing the lens the way I work. And I wasn't down for that. I was so happy that the Ibis is just as good when I was using GH5 back then. Like I can stop buying and selling gimbals because I don't like going back and forth. I'm like, oh, should I try it again? Or was I using it wrong? Or will this work for this shot if I just get the gimbal? But now I just gotta suck it up and just stick to my guns and just go all handheld. And I think, in my opinion, it's been a great success and it's fun. There are a couple times where I was doing video in not so great lighting, and the fact that the second base or second native ISO for vlog is at 4,000, super welcoming. And even then, like I could, if I were to push like a stop over and post, the footage still looks great. I could barely see any noise, especially on the shadows. I can't say the same thing for F-Vlog or F-Vlog 2 on the X-H2 or the X-T5. Pairing the Lumix S5iiX with Lumix native lens, like the 35, 50, or 85 or the native lens for video, those lenses were built for video. So there's almost to no focus breathing. And just like the focus pull on the lens itself is so smooth. And it's at 1.8, which is, you know, more than enough for indoor stuff and outdoor stuff. Well, vlog though, here, this is where, to me, in my opinion, other than like the best in the world Ibis, was vlog. As I mentioned earlier, or just throughout the whole video, I was praising how easy it was to grade vlog. It was easier for me to achieve a certain look that I want, especially when it's easier to manage the highlights and shadows on vlog. Mentioned all these great features and how great of an experience I had with Lumix camera at the price point that I bought the camera for, or even now, like I do see the S5iiX going on sale quite often, a huge bargain price for other competitors. For example, like if you were comparing this to the S5iiX with the R6 Mark II. Sure, the R6 Mark II does have things that does way better than Lumix S5iiX, but price to performance, paying for the R6 Mark II from Canon, for example, outweighs what the Lumix can offer at a cheaper price point and still does things really well. And in my opinion, the Lumix S5iiX is a bargain camera. I hope people look more into Lumix's cameras in general, especially the S5iiX, because it's a really great camera. But there were a couple things that I couldn't really ignore. A long blackout period between each shutter shot, or from, you know, having a GFX 100S Mark II, which, you know, that camera is known to have slower autofocus, slower capturing speed and whatnot, which is okay because it's a medium format camera. I expected more from Lumix S5iiX, but there were so many times where I actually missed a couple perfect moments of my wedding clients because of the fact that the Lumix camera has a long blackout period. When I say long, it's pretty long compared to other competitors. Confidently say that I am very disappointed with how slow that experience is, because if you're going with APS-C sensor camera, you're going for like how compact it is, how much lighter it is, the lens are cheaper, the ball is cheaper in terms of pricing. Exchange, you're sacrificing low light performance, right? But exchange, though, you have a great camera that can do anything, everything, but at a slightly cheaper price point, and it's much lighter to carry around. Now, you going to a medium format field, which would be Hasselblad and GFX, you're spending all that money on that medium format sensor for its image quality capabilities. You will get the best image quality in the world from a medium format camera. One is that it packs lots of megapixels, you know, for example 50 megapixels from the GFX 50S Mark II, or 102 megapixels from the GFX 100S Mark II, or the 102. Sorry, that's a weird naming convention. And also there's also the Hasselblad that offers the same thing in terms of the sensor size and the amount of details and resolution package of that sensor. But in exchange, you're sacrificing autofocus speed, the weight, it's gonna be way heavier, the lens will be way more expensive, and the shooting experience, well, not shooting experience, but the shooting speed will be slower too, comparatively to a crop sensor, which is fine, right? You're going in there knowing that you're gonna get the best image quality ever in exchange for slower everything, right? Now, with full frame cameras, it's like the best of both worlds. They're like the middle between the two of, you know, the AP sensor and medium format sensor. With the Lumix S5iiX, I mean, in my experience, I wish like the shooting experience is better with the Lumix. Would I say that the Lumix S5iiX is one of the best budget hybrid camera for photos and stills? Yeah, definitely. When I say that, because it does go on sale quite often, it is a no-brainer. And plus, with the savings you get from buying the camera at a discount, you can put that towards buying a native lens. And also, all their native lens, like specifically their 35, 50, 85, they're pretty cheap. And the fact that they're all weather sealed using, you know, the same filter thread, so that does save you a bit of money from buying different like filters and ND filters, just to be able to utilize them if all your prime lens were using a different filter size. But this doesn't. I hope this video is very helpful. If you have any questions, please leave a comment in my YouTube video, or if you like my content, please hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do, because that would definitely help my channel, and plus you wouldn't be missing any of my content. All right guys, cheers.